17th passenger. It was January 6, a day when the morning sky was filled with dark, unsettling clouds. Sasai, a single salaryman working for a company in the center of the city, unusually went out for drinks with his colleagues after work at a tavern. The reason being that tomorrow was his birthday, and his colleague, with whom he has always been close both publicly and privately, invited him to celebrate the occasion. They sat side by side at the counter in a crowded izakaya and said, "Congratulations on finally entering your 30th year. Tomorrow you will finally join the ranks of old men." For a while, the two of them talked about all sorts of trivial matters. How long had it been? The colleague asked Sasai with a pinkish face, "By the way, do you believe in reincarnation? By the way, do you believe in reincarnation?" Sasai was puzzled by the sudden change of subject, but after pondering for a while, he answered vaguely, "Yes, I do, or rather, I would like to." "I do, too. If you could be reborn, what would you want to be next?" Again Sasai thought about it on his cheekbones and opened his mouth. "I've had enough of being a salaryman, so I'd like to do something completely different this time. I'm a car guy, so maybe a truck or cab driver would be nice." After a long time of drinking outside, both Sasai and his colleague were so drunk that their sense of time had become numb, and they both missed the last train. "So we each picked up a cab and headed home. It took us about an hour to get to our apartment." After telling the driver where he was going, he leaned against the door on the left side and dozed off, idly watching the scenery go by. It was then a driver's voice suddenly said, "Sir," and Sasai came to his senses and looked to his right. Sasai came to his senses and looked to his right. He was about 50 or 60 years old. The profile of a uniformed driver wearing white gloves comes into blurred view. The driver continues to look at him through the rearview mirror. "Oh, I'm sorry. You were taking your time, weren't you? Are you an office worker?" When Sasai nodded, the driver continued. "I've been a driver since I was a young man. I've been a driver since I was young, and now I'm just a humble private cab driver. If I could be born again, I would like to work for a company." No, this job has a lot of work too," Sasai said, and the driver nodded several times. After saying, "I know, don't you?" Then, with a meaningful tone, he cuts in, "Actually, there's something I really want to say to our customers." "What is it?" Sasai sat back down with a kaiden, saying unintentionally, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry to be so selfish, but would you be willing to die with me?" "What?" In an instant, the air in the car froze. "I'm sorry. I don't understand," he said to the driver's expressionless profile. The driver smiled for a moment, then turned his face straight again and opened his mouth. "That's true, isn't it? It's not so easy for a cab driver to say something like this out of the blue, isn't it? Well, just to surprise you, I actually killed my wife last night." "What?" The air in the car freezes again. "I've been aware for some time that my wife has been cheating on me," he said. "I found out something more surprising last night. The son of a bitch had spent all the money we had put aside for our retirement. It seems that he had been paying off some guy. This made me lose my temper. After an argument, I hit him as hard as I could with a baseball bat. That is, until my face was crushed and red with blood. I stayed with my wife's body until morning, and then went straight to work." "Gee, you're not going to turn yourself in?" "Of course I thought about that. But even if I turn myself in and am prosecuted, I probably won't get the death penalty. Then I decided to take care of myself." The driver's sudden words had already sobered Sasai up completely. He felt a violent palpitating sensation in the back of his throat as he asked the driver, "Driver, what's your problem?" "I understand your difficult situation, driver," Sasai replied, "but why should I be your companion?" "But why do I have to be your companion?" The driver glanced at Sasai and grinned wryly. "I'm sure you're absolutely right," he said, turning back to the windshield and opening his mouth again. I honestly didn't care who it was, he said, turning back to the windshield. Anyway, I had decided to die with the 17th guest of the day. The 17th? Yes. Last night, when my wife was lying in a bloody stupor, I looked at the clock and saw that it was 1:07. And today is January 7th. And today is January 7th, which, coincidentally, is also my birthday. I couldn't stand the rush of excitement caused by this funny coincidence, and I started to giggle. I was like, this can't be happening, can it? Today is also my birthday. When Sasai was shocked, the driver continued. It was then that I felt a presence behind my back. I felt a presence behind my back and turned around to see a strange black figure standing in the corner of the room. I knew intuitively who it was. Then I heard a low voice that seemed to come from the depths of the earth. Bring me the 17th person you are to take on board today, and you will live once more in this world. Then you will be born again, and this time you will live a happy life. Then I made up my mind. I will die with the 17th passenger today. That was you. A heavy silence envelops the car. What the hell is this guy talking about? How much of this is he really talking about? Sasai asks the driver with a confused head. How do you mean, die? The driver opens his mouth as he turns his head toward the windshield. It's very simple, he said. For example, this car is now driving north on a one-lane national highway. The speed is about 63 kilometers per hour. The traffic in this area is light, and the cars are also speeding up. So I accelerate harder, and just as a truck or something is approaching in the opposite lane, I swerve to the right as hard as I can. As you probably know, the impact of a head-on collision between two speeding cars is tremendous. Both of you would probably be pulverized to pieces in an instant. Shall we give it a try? Then the sound of a muffled engine echoes, and the car begins to speed up. Sasai's back was pressed against the seat with a thud. Whoa, 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 stop. Please, stop. The driver, undaunted by his plaintive cries, presses down on the accelerator pedal. The needle on the speedometer starts to spin. 70 kilometers, 78 kilometers, 82 kilometers. The view from the window is drifting backwards and forwards at breakneck speed. In no time at all, the car in front of him catches up to and passes him, and then speeds up again. Sasai moved behind the driver, slapped the back of the seat, and cried out. Please, please let me down, please let me off. That's when he sees something strange to the left of his vision. He sees something strange to the left of his vision that sends a chill down his spine. It was the passenger seat next to the driver. A black figure wearing a cape with a triangular hood was sitting face down. His profile is white, like a skeleton. The needle on the speedometer was already reaching 100 kilometers per hour. The driver stared at a point in front of him with bloodshot eyes and muttered, "What's the matter?" "It only hurts for a moment," he said. "Rest assured." As soon as Sasai glanced at the clock next to the meter, he gulped. It was 1:07. Then, accompanied by the friction sound of squealing tires, the vehicle body suddenly slid to the right and Sasai was slammed against the left door. By that time, the front of a large truck was approaching closely behind the windshield. In the next moment, a ground-shaking horn sounded, and the interior was suddenly enveloped in an intense white light. This concludes this story. Thank you for listening to the end.